We're heading for Komodo Island in Indonesia. Komodo is an island of mystery, almost mythical, because of its famous residents, the Komodo dragons, the largest lizard on the planet. They can grow 3 meters long, and the average adult weighs around 75 kilograms. But one hulking fellow tipped the scales at more than 166 kilograms, over 356 pounds. Enough to send chills up your spine when you know what these fearsome predators can do. Komodo is one of the 17,000 islands, large and small, that make up Indonesia. Around 2,000 people live here in wary proximity to one of the most ferocious carnivores on the planet. The rugged island terrain consists of broad mountain valleys, savanna, and arid plains, characteristic Komodo dragon habitat. Surprisingly, scientists didn't officially discover the species until 1910, though we know that they've shared their island with humans for many hundreds of years. The Komodo dragon is part of the varanid family. It's a carnivore, an ambush hunter, rapidly charging its prey without warning. It can reach a speed of 20 kilometers an hour over short distances when attacking, but it is also a carrion eater, ready to chow down on almost any animal carcass. It's even been seen rooting through cemeteries, forcing villagers to move graves to protected areas. The Komodo dragon is perfectly adapted to its environment and can live to the age of 50. It's one of the rare vertebrates that can reproduce by parthenogenesis. Females are able to lay viable eggs without male fertilization. The species is endemic to Indonesia and is found mainly on Komodo, Rinca, and Flores Islands. Komodo dragons are designated vulnerable on the list of endangered species. The population is estimated at between 4,000 and 5,000. However, recent surveys recording an abnormally low number of reproductive females have alarmed the scientific community. In 1980, a national park was created for their protection. Park authorities are mandated to protect the territory essential for their survival, as well as ensuring that the Komodo dragons and their human neighbors can safely share the island. Biologists monitor the Komodo dragon populations throughout the vast Indonesian territory. Ahmad and Denny work for a local NGO, and over the years, they've become experts in all things Komodo dragon.
Welcome on board. Thank you.
Sedna IV will serve as base camp for the next population census to take place on a number of islands in the sector.
Okay, so here we are, the famous Komodo Island, Rinca. Where do you work mainly?
We have 10 sites. So we work in Komodo Island, Rinca Island, Nusa Kode Island, and also Gilimotang Island. Basically what we're doing is this is a collaboration project between the national park and our organization.
How many people work with your team?
Normally we work 7 people involved.
In this trip, we have 2 visitors from the American Zoo. So one from Los Angeles Zoo, then the other one is from Knoxville Zoo. So because our project is also funded by some zoos in America, so they come here, help us, and also checking to see the...
And then see the... they also learn how to maintain the population here.
So what do we do this morning?
We will start to set up camera trap here.
The main idea is to know whether the dragon present in this area or not.
Let's go then.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
The census covers a huge territory, and the biologists are working with limited means. A number of American specialists have come to lend a hand to their local colleagues. The scientists hope to learn more about this still little understood species.
This place is unique. Every time I wake up in the morning and I walk outside, I see something that I've either never seen before or only seen on TV, you know, only read about. It's truly like waking up in Jurassic Park.
Ahmad and Denny's work so hard. Their work ethic is unparalleled, and I feel like they have a really good understanding of what to do to fully understand Komodo dragons.
That's the first site?
Yeah, this is our first site.
Label, Mas? Udah.
You use goat all the time, or?
Always goat, because that's the best.
Goat smells really bad,
Yeah.
and I think it's the best bait for attracting the dragon.
Is there some problem with, you know, people and livestock like goats?
Yeah, sometimes the dragon kill goat that belong to villagers because, you know, the deer is the main prey for dragon, and goat is just almost the same with
Yeah.
the deer. So we're taking the trial shot just
Yep.
to make the frame is, yeah, the bait is on frame.
Smile. So you use that for the smell around?
Yeah, yes, it's to attract the dragon. The dragon have very good sense of smells. They could smell for up to 1 kilometer. They have an organ called organ Jacobson, so they don't use the nose like us. By the end of the tongue, the chemical receptor, and they will transfer the chemical they take from the air to the organs.
Oh, yeah.
It's to make sure it's cover all the area.
On Komodo Island, the favorite prey are deer, goats, and water buffalo. But dragons are not picky eaters. They'll eat anything they can sink their teeth into, living or dead. They like to hide and wait for their prey near water, ready to charge the moment an animal lowers its guard.
On the exterior, they seem like this otherworldly, you know, anachronistic creature that still exists on this earth. There was one situation where a dragon had tried to kill a water buffalo, had been unsuccessful, and the buffalo hit it, you know, with its head, threw it into the air. Dragon landed and didn't move for 3 days, and then finally after 3 days picked itself up and walked away. So just kind of to say that they're indestructible in a way. I mean, you saw the scars on that individual, and they fight and they tear each other up. They drink disgusting brackish water that's probably tainted with all kinds of things, and yet they still persist. Overall, they're strong. I mean, they can keep going.
The biologists have set up a number of motion detector cameras all over the area. The smell of decomposing goat meat attracts the dragons within camera range, and their visit is documented.
Ooh. No doubt about the smell.
43 picture.
Oh. So
This is last one when we arrived. This is already dark.
pig.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
boar. It's quite a lot here.
Yeah.
That data is taken, and we get an idea what the density of the dragon population is. If it's ultimately, if we do this every year, we can see if the population is declining or increasing.
Okay, we will split become two groups. One group will be responsible on the left-hand side. To take 3 camera traps, and then the other side will be responsible to take 2 camera traps. Okay. Ambil itunya.
Denny leads the way. We have to keep our eyes open because dragons are experts at camouflage.
Oh, there's a dragon over there.
Oh yeah.
Can you see it? I would say it's probably size for female. It might be one of the dragons which is trapped on the camera trap.
Yeah.
Danny, the tail still looks fat, so she probably didn't lay this year, huh?
Okay.
So this is a female. We think it's a female. She's not very big. In fact, she's probably about my height. It's amazing to see how these animals just disappear in the landscape. That's the greatest danger, mistaking one for a tree trunk or a piece of dead wood. You don't want that to happen.
Based on her body condition, she's probably hasn't laid eggs this year. She's still got a lot of fat store in her tail. She looks very healthy. Oftentimes you're walking down the trail and you're not paying close attention, and next thing you know, you're a couple meters away from a dragon.
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen, all for free. No subscription required.
Beautiful animal. Great to see.
When hungry, dragons will go for any animal around, including their own young.
There is kind of like shift between adult activity and hatchling activity. So in the morning, early in the morning when the adult one active, all the baby will be on the tree just to avoid cannibalism. Yeah. And then once the big dragon just slug just because too hot, and then they can go to the ground. Okay. That's what we found so far from radio tracking study. Sometimes I would say female also, if the male can have opportunity, they will kill the female. That's right. That's happened in the zoo also. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there something that they don't eat?
Everything that only vegetables. Everything. They are top carnivore here.
The Indonesian government and the Indonesian National Park Service protect the dragons very well. It's the poaching, actually, of the prey items, the deer, the Sunda deer. They're a source of food, and without the deer, the Komodos would struggle.
Hey,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Any nice picture?
We are going to.
Okay,
we
great.
just started downloading the images.
Great.
Yeah. Have a seat.
Wow.
It's a big one.
That's a big one. Very big.
It's healthy.
That's big.
Big. Healthy as well.
Yes.
So this camera is record not only dragon but any animals that any movement.
Too big.
Chicken.
Chicken.
Jungle fowl.
Can you do some photo ID with dragon to recognize them? I suppose when they have big scar, but it's too difficult.
It's very difficult. You know, there are some researchers use the camera to trying to identify how many dragon individual. They trying to use the mark recapture method.
Yeah.
Because I think it's only could be done to animal that can be distinguished by the images pattern.
Like
For example, tiger, and also the rhino.
It's hard to determine the exact number of Komodo dragons scattered over different parts of the island. The motion detector cameras will tell the scientists if there are Komodo dragons in a particular area, but the technique doesn't provide any specific information on individuals. If biologists want to follow the development of specific Komodo dragons over time, they have to capture them. A number of dragons have small transmitters implanted under the skin that identify and differentiate them. The catalog of Komodo dragons is a vital source of information on the biology of the species. But in order to access this information, you have to capture individuals.
Thank you.
The whole team meets at the entrance to Komodo National Park. For us, it's a big day. Capturing and handling this dreaded and powerful animal is a real challenge. Everyone is assembled and ready for action. The modular cages will be carried into the heart of dragon habitat. The biologists are confident they'll be able to catch one of the animals tagged in previous captures.
So these are the cages used to trap the Komodo dragons. They have just arrived from the village, so we'll take them up to the site. We'll set out bait, and let's hope we manage to trap one.
Recapturing dragons is the only way to monitor the development of individual animals. And population monitoring allows biologists to track the animal's health over time and observe the growth of the Komodo dragons in ideal conditions. The national park is the last peaceful haven for this endangered species. The team will be assisted by staff from the national park. These park wardens have enormous experience in dragon territory and know how to react in the event of an attack. But no weapons. They defend us using only sturdy forked sticks to push the dragons away.
One trap will be set up here.
Okay.
Coming. I want to protect the cameraman and then everybody that goes there.
We are setting the cages up here. There are chunks of goat meat set out, and a male has already picked up the scent and is trying to approach. The guards are trying to control him, so it should not be too hard to trap one.
It takes several men to manage this large, hungry male. The smell of the goat meat excites the animal, but the park wardens keep things under control.
There are 3 bait that we put. One is in the front, the other one in the middle part, and the other one is tied to the string, the mechanical, so it's activated. So when the dragon came, they will grab the first one, the second one, and when he grabs the third one, he can lift the traps and wait the dragon come.
Everything's ready. The signal's being given. Now the wardens can get out of the way of the increasingly famished dragon.
We've got to be careful not to get bitten because they charge very quickly. It's amazing. They rarely attack humans, but when they do, it's a serious matter. What's the plan? We will open the door?
We will noose first, open one of the window here, and then pull one by one from the tail, and then hind leg, and then tie the hind leg. After that, pull again, tie the front leg, and then try to measure this dragon. Okay.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Go.
The animal's strength is tremendous. It's crucial that his powerful feet not touch the ground. He could knock over anyone trying to pin him down if he gets his feet under him.
Okay, you can sit there.
Sit there.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
good. A little bit more. Okay, Ahmad.
They tape the animal's jaws shut to prevent him from using this fearsome weapon.
Karung. Okay, sidik lepas.
Sidik kelas. Now we're gonna check the dragon whether it's been tagged or not. So we usually put the tag on the right hind leg. So you're gonna check it with this thing. Yep. Yeah, so it's already.
Okay.
There's already ID. And I'm gonna check. So can help. Yeah. 000 643 58BA. So we're gonna check the record. Whether it's from this island or from other islands, just make sure. Yeah. The first time we catch this animal is on 2004, so it's 10 years ago.
Okay. What is the weight or the length? Total length, total body length?
Only 10 kilograms.
10 kilograms.
Wow.
It's still.
No, I would say this is 60 kilograms. We'll see later. Yeah. We will see.
And the total length is only 1.8 meters.
We have to measure the snout vent length because if the total length is important, but just because the dragon is not regenerate their tail, so this is the important one.
Can you
hold here? Okay, thank you, Zhang. 133.5. Total body length 2.66. 2.66. Pull him.
Up.
Up.
Okay, one little moment.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. It's more than 10 kilos, that's for sure.
It's 60.
60. Yeah.
This is a male because usually the female is never weighed more than 40 kilograms and never had long more than 2.4. So 2.4 is the maximum for female. We never found female more than 2.4. So we can tell for sure this is a male.
And what is the sex ratio male-female in the wild?
Scientists believe that the ratio is 1 female for 3 males, but we still want to find out whether it's true or not.
How long can they live?
For the male, they could live up to 40 years, but when we're trying to estimate the age, some a very healthy animal, the male one, can live up to 60, but mostly they live 40 years old. While the females live shorter than the males, probably they only live for 30 years. This pen is telling us that the dragons already been measured, so when the dragons come to the trap again, so we didn't have to just let them go.
First, we untied the legs, but people who handle the legs make sure his leg doesn't touch the ground, because once he touch the ground, he will be very strong and angry.
Guys, 1, 2, 3.
He's angry.
He's angry, eh? The strength of these animals is incredible. Wow. He's not happy there.
This Komodo dragon can now return to the peaceful forest of the park. He's lucky to live in a protected area. Here, hunting is banned. This allows his prey to reproduce and be present in large numbers. When food is abundant, the dragons rarely fight each other. But that's not always the case on other islands where there is less prey and where cannibalism has been observed. Komodo dragons do not live solely in protected parks where human activity is strictly regulated. In some areas, dragons and villagers have to share space, and it isn't always easy.
What is the relationship between the villagers and the Komodo dragons?
There is a mythology. The Komodo dragons actually family with the villagers.
And also, when a dragon came into the village, for example, when they smells food, and the people didn't try to harm the dragon, they just pushed the dragon away.
We stopped at one of the small, isolated villages where people have to interact with Komodo dragons. Age-old myths underlie these shared living arrangements.
Nice to meet you. John.
John, where come from? Canada.
When I was a little girl, my parents told me a story of a woman who gave birth to twins, one a human, the other a dragon. The dragon ran into the forest. Since that time, we have a blood tie with the dragons, a tie so strong that we are forbidden to kill them. We are not allowed to harm them in any way. The dragons are actually humans with tails.
These widespread beliefs provide a level of protection for the dragons.
Dragons often attack cats or goats. One came right into my kitchen and ate my cat.
Kucing. Pokoknya binatang apa saja dia lihat itu dari atas tuh.
Traditionally, all families kept goats. Not anymore, though. because they'll just get eaten by dragons.
Tapi habis. Bagus.
This is where the dragons live. It's their home. And that's just fine because tourists come here to see them.
Kalau dia ganggu kita kan kita usir sejak.
It's fine with me if they attack cats, chickens, and goats, but not our children.
Goats, cats, dogs, and even chickens regularly fall victim to dragons who prowl the village. Villagers continue to hold the mythical animal in high respect, despite horrifying and sometimes deadly encounters.
It was a Friday. The children were all making their way home after a day at the beach. My son was sitting on the stairs. All of a sudden, a dragon leapt on his legs and threw him to the ground. I heard screams and ran to try to rescue him. When I got outside, there was blood everywhere. His belly had been ripped open.
When I got there, I screamed, "My son is dead." I couldn't believe my eyes. I felt his last breath, and I fainted. When I woke up, my child's body looked like the carcass of a dead animal. I'm still grieving. The wound is still there. It's still hard for me to talk about.
Tidak usah takut.
Nenek, kita dengar ada kejadian buruk menimpa nenek dengan buaya. Bisa diceritakan apa yang terjadi, Nenek?
I was alone walking in the forest. A dragon came up behind me and bit down on my hand. I had a knife, but I didn't use it. I didn't want to hurt it. He's a member of my family. I started kicking him to defend myself. Eventually, some people from the village came to help me. They got me to the hospital. I stayed there for a week.
Is it still very painful today?
The nerves were damaged. You can see, this is where he grabbed me. When I move my hand, it's still painful. But I have to keep working to survive.
Komodo dragons are natural predators, designed to kill their prey. That's why they're at the top of the food chain. They've been on the island much longer than humans have. They lived in ecological balance with the other species in their ecosystem before their territory was occupied. For them, hunting for food is essential for their survival. It's also the role they play in nature, their vital function within the great chain of life. When hungry, Komodo dragons hunt. With no concept of right and wrong, they don't distinguish between a goat, a deer, or a child.
The dragon was 3.5 meters long. The next week, guards came and took him to another island. I can't blame the dragon. It was my son's destiny. That's all there is to it.
Every Friday I think about it. I pray that my son is happy where he is.
Destiny? Well, maybe. When individual lives are ruled by a society's values and beliefs. In the past, goats were sacrificed as offerings to satisfy the appetite of the predators and ward off attacks. But animal protection groups oppose the practice, declaring it cruel and immoral. So the children have learned to be wary of the Komodo dragons, who share their village, their playgrounds, their daily lives. But an ambush can happen anytime. Yet here, it's all put down to destiny. Villagers built a wall to protect the schoolyard. But the school is at the far end of the village, near the mountain, where the dragons lurk. Here, spiritual values, beliefs, and mythology do more to safeguard this endangered species than the concepts of protection and nature conservation.
Did you have any incident yourself? Were you bitten by a dragon before?
For this research, we catch almost 1,000 individual dragon, and one dragon can there several times, so it's almost more than 2,000 captures, and there's no accident. That is something that we're always proud of.
Yes, of course.
I think as long as we respect wild animal as wild animal, it won't become a big problem. So we can learn how to catch the dragon, safe for the dragon, and then also safe for researcher also.
But in reality, there's no safety for this endangered species.
I would say their biggest threat would be any kind of loss of interest. This park is good and it's stable right now, but I would say if people tend to stop being interested for whatever reason, I worry that they may not protect them as well as they should. They may not be as vigilant in protecting them, and that could be a problem.
Like so many species that are threatened or endangered, it's habitat destruction. With the introduction of invasive species comes also disease. And you're talking about a population of animals here that's probably less than 5,000 individuals. That's not too many animals. So if a disease, was introduced to the islands, they could quickly be wiped out.
Despite the many threats to its precarious existence, no one wants to see this extraordinary carnivore disappear. The Komodo dragon represents much more than a formidable predator within an ecosystem. Here, it's considered a full member of the family of living beings. Only time will tell if these traditions can spare the largest dragon on the planet from extinction. We set sail for Lamalera, a small fishing village in Indonesia. Lamalera is on a mountainous volcanic island where the poor soil is not suitable for farming. Villagers depend for survival on a centuries-old hunting tradition, whaling. And their main target isn't just any whale. They hunt the sperm whale, the world's largest carnivore, that can grow to a length of 20 meters and weigh up to 55 tons. Lamalera is on the island of Lembato, one of the 17,000 islands that make up Indonesia. The earliest written record of this whale hunt dates back to 1643, when Portuguese explorers described it as heroic. People in Lamalera have always subsisted on what the ocean could provide. But with no nearby reefs or shallows harboring fish colonies, villagers must sail far from shore to cast their nets in the deep ocean. For centuries, fishermen rowed out to sea in their frail craft, hauling in anything that could feed the community. But these meager catches were not enough to ensure the village's long-term survival. So they developed a whaling technique using handmade harpoons. But in the early 2000s, a sophisticated new piece of fishing gear was added to the tackle box, the outboard motor. There are now about 30 outboards, and they've completely transformed what villagers still call traditional fishing. Sharks, rays, and dolphins are choice targets, and much easier to catch with motorcraft. While they still use traditional boats to hunt the sperm whale, motorcraft help in various ways.
We depend on sperm whales. We do catch dolphins and rays, but without the sperm whale, the community could not survive. That's why we all pray that the whales will come back year after year.
Whales are vital for the inhabitants of Lamalera. Without them, we die of starvation.
Long classified as traditional subsistence activities, hunting and fishing in Lamalera are not subject to any quotas or bans on harvesting for the protection of endangered species. This exception to international law has not been reviewed since the hunters began using outboards. Villagers still consider their practices as ancestral activities essential to their survival. Whaling season begins in May. The whole village gathers to pray and commemorate the souls of those lost at sea while working at this dangerous occupation.
At the beginning of every hunting season, the first formal event is a get-together we call the beach meeting. We talk about various issues concerning the hunts to come. We might, for example, spend time discussing which team will harpoon, first, second, and so on. We have to agree on that, or it will be a free-for-all. Then later that night, we make an offering of candles and flowers to the memory of those lost at sea. They are our heroes.
Dan juga tanggal 1 Mei itu ditetapkan
May 1st is the day of the first whale hunt.
Musim resmi turun ke laut.
The day begins with a blessing of the boats and the men. Then all the fishermen go out to sea to do their job.
Traditional boats called tena used to be propelled by oar or sail. But nowadays, the large craft are towed far out to sea where the whales can be found.
There's a ban on hunting blue whales, but we're allowed to catch sperm whales and orca. We are dependent on waves and plankton. If plankton is abundant and the waves head towards us, then the whales will come to us. If the waves go out to sea, the whales won't come.
The harpooner stands on a small platform in the bow. He has to leap into the air to plant his harpoon in the animal's flesh. It's an art, and one with considerable risk. It's a difficult and dangerous job, and results in many casualties.
I've been hunting whales my whole life. I started when I finished grade school, and I stopped 3 months ago, when I lost my leg.
Some lose their lives. Others bear the scars of a battle lost in the name of tradition.
During a hunt, there was a lot of confusion on the boat, and I ended up in the wrong place. I was standing with my leg in among the ropes when the harpoon caught in the whale, and the cable started to reel out, and I was thrown into the sea. When the cable between the whale and the boat tightened, it cut off my leg. It was a big whale, but we lost it.
Whether the whale is large or small, it all depends on the harpooner.
The harpooner is the most important person on the team. If you don't have a good harpooner, there's no point in going to sea. Even with a team of 8, 9, or 10 men, you have to have a good harpooner. A real harpooner has to be able to stand straight up at the front of the boat without getting nervous or feeling any fear when he sees the red eyes of the whale. A harpooner can't make a mistake. The rest of the team expects him to be successful no matter what. If there aren't many whales and I miss, I feel that I've let the others down. They rely on me. I feel an enormous sense of responsibility.
It's a lucky escape for this killer whale. The harpoon fell out, and we're unlikely to see him again anytime soon.
The most remarkable thing I remember is the time I chased down and harpooned 3 whales, all in the same day. One of the whales was at least 15 meters long. All the boats were after it. Being a harpooner is a source of pride, mainly because it's a skill handed down from father to son. My father was not a harpooner, so I'm even prouder because of that. When we spot a dolphin, we come close and reduce speed so we can follow it. But it's tricky. Dolphins are unpredictable. They zigzag all over the place. I can catch up to 10 small dolphins a week, but if they're big, probably only 5.
The recently introduced use of motorboats has changed the way they hunt and greatly increased the pressure on a variety of vulnerable species. After another day hunting at sea, it's time to divvy up the catch among the crew. In a well-established distribution system, the harpooner and the boat's owner are allotted the best pieces.
It's the harpoon guy, so he's the one first time,
How do they eat that? Is it dry in the sun or?
Bagaimana dimasaknya? Dikeringin dulu baru dimasak?
Tidak, langsung ada yang kasih kering, ada yang langsung masak. Lemak puasa.
Okay. They can try it first, but it's more delicious if you just cook it right away.
Obviously, for Westerners like ourselves, these images are very hard to accept because we have an almost emotional relationship with dolphins. When we come to places like this, I think we have to set aside our opinions, our Western point of view, to be able to understand this culture, even a little. But it's not easy.
The numbers given by the harpooner are food for thought. If this one boat takes 10 dolphins a week, how many dolphins are caught every year by the Lamalera fleet's dozens of boats? And what is the impact on marine species now that motorboats are part of the hunter's arsenal? In this corner of the world, there are no scientists to track population numbers.
Don't you think you're hunting too many dolphins?
No, not at all. There will always be dolphins.
Fishermen believe that their God knows what's good for them and would not put all these animals in their path if it wasn't right. Many boys aspire to the most prestigious job around. For generations, harpooners have commanded great respect here in the village because they contribute to feeding the whole community. For these youngsters, The dream of confronting a big sperm whale out at sea is very real.
This is a day for celebration because they've just caught a young sperm whale. It's a young male. You can tell from the teeth. It's a male. Hard to tell the exact age, but he's still fairly small. It's probably easier for them to catch the smaller ones. The main harpooner thrust the first harpoon into the whale. That harpoon is on a rope, and the rope is attached to a small wooden boat, which the whale now has to pull. Obviously, the idea is to exhaust the whale. Once the animal slows down, they'll come in closer and shoot more and more harpoons into it, attached to other boats. So by increasing the amount of drag on the animal and tiring it out, they'll eventually be able to deliver the death blow. It's an ancient technique used by very few people anywhere in the world. It's been effective for who knows how many years, so they see no reason to change it.
We heard it was a difficult hunt. Is that so?
Yeah.
Yes. It was very tough. 2 of the 11 boats tipped. It took us an hour and a half to get the boats back in position. Other harpooners had to jump in to lend a hand. It was a difficult hunt. I'm a harpooner, and it's a dangerous job. So many things can go wrong. It's very risky. I could die at any moment.
Is there more risk with a bigger whale?
It's always risky, and accidents happen all the time. It doesn't matter how big the whale is. It's dangerous. We have to be really focused during a hunt. We harpooners have a rule. If we have worries at home, we do not go to sea. It's a lot safer. You don't want to take a chance.
How many whales did the village caught this year?
Sudah berapa paus yang diambil tahun ini, Pak?
Tahun ini 2013 ya?
Ya.
This year, we've caught 25.
25 ekor.
Teman-teman di desa
25? That's a lot, isn't it?
Ambilnya, Pak.
No, it's not too many. If we could catch more, we would. We need them. They're our survival.
Bagi orang Lamalera,
We're not going to empty the sea by catching 25 whales a year. They're a gift from God. There will always be plenty of whales.
We use every part of the whale. Nothing goes to waste. That shows just how much we need them. We have a saying here that goes, we should all have food to eat, not just our relatives, but everyone. When the pieces are cut out, the women roll them in salt and then hang them to dry. That way the whale meat will keep for months.
The whales are our livelihood. We depend on them. A single whale will feed the community for a month.
Half my share goes to my mother-in-law. I also give some to my neighbors and to the widows. We also traded for corn. 1 platter of corn for 3 strips of whale meat. Sometimes we also traded for bananas and manioc.
The treasure will be divided according to a precise ritual. The crew that first harpooned the whale claims the choice pieces, but the whole community benefits from this manna from the sea.
Tomorrow, the chief will come down from the village, and the head will be set aside for him. The oil will be shared among the members of the village, but the head is always reserved for the chief.
The next day, the villagers begin cutting up the sperm whale's head, which contains the precious spermaceti.
So this is the head of the sperm whale with its single blowhole, which is to the right of center. That's typical. So the blow is always at a slight angle. They will cut off the part of the head that contains the spermaceti, a very valuable oil. Sperm whales are part of Odontoceti, or toothed whales. They have only 1 blowhole, unlike baleen whales that have a double blowhole. The blowhole is off-center, and within the structure is where you find the spermaceti oil.
When the whale is alive, its internal temperature is 37 degrees Celsius, so the spermaceti is in liquid form. Originally mistakenly identified as the whale's semen, the name sperm whale is derived from spermaceti whale. But below 30 degrees, the spermaceti solidifies into a spongy wax. The sperm whale controls its internal temperature and can alter the density of the spermaceti organ to act as ballast when diving. The oil can be burned in lamps and was used to light village houses right up to 2006, when electricity reached Lamalera. At the end of the process, everything has been cut, dried, salted, and stored. All that remains of the animal are a few bits of skeleton that the tide will soon wash out to sea. Life goes back to its usual slow pace until the next whale kill. This was the 25th sperm whale killed in just the last 4 months. At a conservative estimate, we're talking about several tons of food per slaughtered whale, in addition to the dolphins, rays, sharks, swordfish, and other fish caught every day. Yet, the total population, including the surrounding area, is no more than 2,000. Every Thursday, the women of Lamalera attend a market in the neighboring village. Here they can pick up things they need that the ocean does not provide. The road linking the villages, not built until the early 2000s, affords a mobility that has begun to open up the world. Goods and commodities of all kinds can now be transported more easily, but it takes money to pay for them. While barter is still common, villagers increasingly want to sell their products for cash.
In the market, we figured that a package of whale meat like this, that contains 2 or 3 pieces, is worth about $1. So whale meat is not worth much compared to other types of fish or even some vegetables that are not very common here, like carrots. But what doesn't get sold, the woman will try to barter for something else.
Good?
She's traded this for a root vegetable, and she'll do the same here. It's really barter. They're trading root vegetables for pieces of whale meat.
Not so long ago, whale meat was the basis of the local economy. But access to modern equipment and the free circulation of goods have altered life on this Indonesian island. Motorboats now set drift nets that catch vast numbers of fish. With modern technology being used to scoop up ever more marine life, some environmental groups have begun to question the legitimacy of traditions, especially where endangered species are concerned.
When I look back and compare the situation now to previous years, I'd say the catch has really gone down since the late 1980s. As far as protecting species is concerned, it's a noble cause. But I firmly believe that the resource will be here for hundreds of years to come.
We've always lived off what the sea gives us, and that includes whales. Some time ago, some people came to talk to us about protecting whales. But no one on Lamalera agrees with them. What we are doing is legal. The International Court of Justice permits our traditional hunting practices. We fishermen work very hard. Sometimes we work almost 24 hours a day. We will never stop hunting the way we do, the way we've always done. Not long ago, the local government tried to make us give up hunting, but we refused because this is traditional hunting and because all of the equipment we use is made by hand. No one can stop us from doing this. It would be an insult to our ancestors.
It may be hard to accept that this can still qualify as traditional fishing, especially compared to the way things were done before outboard motors came on the scene. They chase a killer whale, but the animal is fast. Dolphins. This time the boat was able to catch up to the fleeing animal.
When we go out to sea and harpoon a dolphin, what we see is not a beautiful, intelligent animal. What we see more than anything else is an animal that, once we get it back to the village, will feed our families. We believe it's important to strike a dolphin's snout to shorten its suffering. That technique has been passed down from our ancestors.
During one maneuver, disaster strikes. The motorboat has struck the harpooner, causing a serious head injury.
John, can we go to Ulandoni because the local hospital nearby, like just in front of our boat? Oh yeah, okay.
We quickly get the injured man to the village. On the way back, another unforgettable event brings a difficult day to a close. A crew member spots a familiar shape, and the boat makes straight for this shadow on the surface. The sight of an enormous manta ray sends the hunters into a frenzy. They struggle mightily to capture the animal. Since we arrived, we've been wondering about middlemen, foreign buyers who might be reselling some products of the marine harvest. But no one was prepared to discuss it. The standard response was that what happens here is subsistence hunting and fishing, not commercial. Our rescue of the wounded harpooner may explain his sudden and surprising willingness to talk.
For us, manta rays are a better catch than dolphins. In addition to their meat, there's also their gill rakers. The gill rakers bring in a lot. We get $50 a kilo for the gill rakers. We have a buyer here on the island. He sells them to a middleman who ships them to China. For shark fins, it's different. We have another buyer who ships them overseas. We get a lot of money for them too.
We know that Chinese importers pay a great deal of money for the gill rakers.
Did you know that the manta ray gill rakers you sell for $50 a kilo go for $500 a kilo on the market?
That's a big surprise. $500 sounds like a huge amount. But for us, $50 a kilo is still a tidy sum.
The devastating effect of middlemen is well known. We've witnessed it firsthand in several countries we've visited, where locals sell products to international buyers for resale in Asia. The price for shark fins or gill rakers from rays is skyrocketing, as is demand. In China, too, tradition is trotted out as an excuse when these delicacies from the sea end up in soup. In less than 15 years, Lamalera has undergone a dramatic transformation. A road has been built, electricity has been installed, and gasoline-powered outboard motors have made things easier for fishermen. Progress has opened up markets, and some local products now make their way to China.
So it's been a good night's fishing on Lamalera. Here on the beach this morning we find many different species, swordfish, mahi-mahi, but there are also a lot of fish that are on the endangered species list. This morning we see a number of species of shark, there are dolphins, a lot of rays, and especially hammerhead sharks. Worldwide stocks of hammerhead have dropped by 98% in the last few decades because of overfishing. But here there's an exception because of traditional fishing. It may be time to ask how far we're prepared to go in respecting cultures when we're talking about endangered species. We're also beginning to feel that we're wearing out our welcome here in the village. I think they'll start urging us to ship out pretty soon. They seem to be more and more annoyed by the camera, so this may soon be the end for us on Lamalera.
In the US and in Japan, they use modern industrial fishing methods that really do endanger whales. That's not the case with us. But they want us to stop from hunting? Why don't they make them stop and leave us alone? If people think we're overfishing, they're not being fair. We go to sea to hunt in a traditional manner. We hunt and fish whatever we can find. If people are bothered by the way we do things here, that's their problem, not mine.
Our point of view usually depends on our values and our culture. It's easy to condemn, and for many of us, often our first instinct. But putting an end to the whale hunt will have major social consequences here. On the other hand, can we accept the status quo with no scientific tracking and oversight? Beyond any ideological position, one question remains fundamental and universal. How far are we prepared to go in harvesting species that are threatened with extinction? Indonesia has more species of plants and animals than almost any other area on the planet, second only to Brazil. But this astonishing biodiversity is under threat. Every year, 2 million hectares of forest are cut down. Major corporations are turning these precious tropical forests into lucrative single-crop farms. It is the equivalent of 6 football fields disappearing every minute. The deforestation has many victims. Between 80 and 90% of forest species will die as a result of clear cutting. The original forest, bursting with life, is slashed, burned, obliterated, and replaced with orderly rows of palm trees to produce the most widely used vegetable oil in the world, palm oil. Our first stop is the island of Borneo, or Kalimantan. At 736,000 square kilometers, it's the 4th largest island on Earth. At the heart of these lush tropical forests lives a small, remarkably agile tree primate, the gibbon. Its characteristic song has become the forest anthem, a long lament with which it defines its territory. Of the 17 species of gibbons identified in the world, 7 live in the forests of Indonesia. All are threatened by the rapid disappearance of their habitat. The forests of Indonesia are home to a large variety of iconic species, like elephants and orangutans. But they struggle to survive in isolated patches of forest. In the last 50 years, Indonesia has lost over half of its forests. Without immediate action to stop the destruction, an estimated 98% of Indonesia's tropical forests could disappear in the near future. We might think Indonesians are seeing some benefit, some improvement to the local economy, in exchange for letting their forests, that have always been at the center of traditional culture, go up in smoke. Not so. Oil palm production requires little manpower, and most of the workers on these industrial farm operations earn less than the local minimum wage. But the most astonishing thing, when you walk through these giant plantations, is the silence.
At the foot of the trees are bunches like this, that are filled with what you could call the gold of these new Indonesian forests. This fruit is the basis of palm oil. It's very sad to see how life has disappeared from formerly thriving habitats.
Fortunately, some people are fighting for change, like Aurélien Brulé, who left his native France at 18 to settle in Indonesia. Aurélien was only 12 years old when he first encountered gibbons. Through the bars at a zoo, he spent many hours observing them. At 16, he wrote his first book on gibbons to the astonishment of specialists. Here, everyone calls him Shani, which means gibbon in Thai.
As a child, I wanted to leave France. I wasn't rejecting my country, I just knew it was going to happen. And in May 1998, I ended up in Jakarta and had a rude awakening. Because I'd always dreamt of living with the gibbons, in a little cabin in the woods surrounded by animals, and yet I quickly saw that if I was going to help them, that wasn't going to happen. I witnessed deforestation on a scale I could never have imagined. The entire forest is being attacked. 90% of the forest had been handed over to the logging companies. So the primeval jungle, the virgin forest, forget it. That only exists on the highest peaks of the central mountains of Borneo. So I had to deal with reality. I'd also forgotten that Indonesia has a large human population with complex cultural and societal values. Many people keep gibbons as pets.
Gibbons are often killed during deforestation. The baby, clinging to its slaughtered mother's belly, will be captured and sold. Trafficking in wild animals is illegal in Indonesia, but it's still widespread.
I understood that saving gibbons was going to be a lot more complicated than my childhood dream, which was to throw open cages and set the animals free. I spent a year negotiating with the forestry department for permission to create the first gibbon conservation program. I had no money. I was 18, a complete unknown. That's when I woke up and saw that to save the gibbons, I was going to have to do it with and for the local people. Welcome to Kalawait.
Oh, thanks.
In 1998, the Kalawait Association was formed. Today, it's the largest gibbon protection project in the world.
We're approaching the first two buildings of Kalawait. The animals are around back. The 147 gibbons, the bears, and crocodiles are behind the buildings, so that anyone coming up from the river won't be able to get at them directly.
So you're not open to the public?
Absolutely not. The only human contact the animals have is with team members.
So the idea is to recreate natural living conditions for the animals.
That's right. To let them socialize, to let them become gibbons again. They've lived with humans for many years. We pair them off and isolate them together in the forest so they can learn to have a normal social life and basically learn to become gibbons again. Throughout the Indonesian archipelago, we estimate there are 6,000 gibbons in captivity. Where do they come from? From the forest. The mother is killed and the baby clinging to her belly is captured. And they become living playthings. They're toys. People play with them for a while, then stick them in a cage where they die. It's sad, but this is increasingly common. More and more animals are being held in captivity because so many are caught during habitat destruction. So the logger moonlights as a poacher. They cut down the forest, leaving a little stand of trees where the gibbons are easy to catch. Then they sell them. That's why the conditions at Kalawait, even though unfortunately the animals have to be caged, are a world apart from the conditions they were in when they were rescued. This is a socialization cage. We keep the younger ones together in groups like this. Then once they're fully mature, we separate them into mating pairs. Watch it, she's trying to.
And the main reason there's not much chance they can be released back into the wild is because there is so little forest left.
Yes, where any forest remains, there are already too many gibbons. Any that survived the clear cutting have taken refuge in isolated patches of forest, and since they're very territorial, they're already killing each other. So I can't release these animals. That's what's so frustrating. I came to Borneo 15 years ago to set the animals free, and I'm now keeping several gibbon families caged here at Kalawait because there is nowhere to release them.
So more deforestation will only increase the problem.
Yes, and that's why Kalawait has to get involved in habitat protection. Not so I can release my gibbons, but so that the gibbons in the forest can stay there. This is Leo. He escaped from one of the cages and attacked another gibbon. It just goes to show that gibbons are extremely aggressive among themselves. His wrist was so badly injured we had to amputate. We have to be on the lookout for it with the gibbons. I can't put more than 2 adults in an enclosure, and that makes it tricky. With orangutans, you can put 15 or 20 individuals on an island. With gibbons, or a gibbon pair, I can give them 15 hectares, and if I add any more, they'll start to fight.
So with this amputation, his chances of ever being released are...
He stands almost no chance of ever being released, but that doesn't mean we won't try to find him a mate, another gibbon who can never return to the wild, so that he can have a social life in a large enclosure at Kalawait. We have a sanctuary as well. 25% of the animals here can never be released because of illness or injury. So it's important for us to give them a decent life, even in captivity.
You're taking a blood sample to see if the gibbon has contracted any human diseases?
Yes. We'll find out if the gibbon has hepatitis, for example, or any other strictly human disease. Gibbons often get infected when they're kept as pets. And if they test positive for any of these diseases, they'll never be released.
The team at Kalawait is made up of veterinarians and local workers inspired by Shani's passion. Around 50 people are employed at the 2 conservation centers, caring for these animals displaced by deforestation.
Shani is really committed to saving the world, the animals in the world. I've seen him fight for the last 11 years, and he's completely dedicated.
Yes, I am proud to be the part of Kalawait. The good thing about Shani is he's very inspiring, and he's very dedicated in what he's doing. You know, what with Kalawait being growth this huge.
Feeding time comes twice a day, and everyone pitches in. Here at the only conservation center in Borneo, over 5 tons of food, mostly fruit, is served up to the 100 or so captive residents.
So this is a different setup. Are they in quarantine?
Not anymore. We've set them up as a pair while they wait for a larger enclosure. It's a richer environment, and they make a good couple. You can see the female is a bit shyer than the male. And the male is eyeballing us with that typical chewing motion that means, watch it, if you come in here, I'll get you.
He dreamt of living in the heart of the jungle with his gibbon friends. He pictured them free, without bars. That's what he came here for. But in Borneo, Shani soon learned that his childhood dreams were unattainable, that the vast old-growth Indonesian forest he'd imagined were a thing of the past, wiped out by the insatiable maw of big business in cahoots with corrupt officials. These large enclosures stand in for the forest, and the man who dreamt of freedom can't simply open the cage. Today, for Shani and his dedicated team, the only option is saving life where it still exists.
We approach with 2 blowpipes. Only Nanto has a dart, but we confuse her, so she won't know where the dart is coming from. That way she'll be in a good position because we need to hit her in the thigh. It's tricky.
And this is the latest arrival?
Yes, so we need to examine her. Perfect. Perfect. Nanto is a Dayak, and the blowpipe is their traditional weapon. She got the full dose, so she should be asleep in 10 minutes. Here, Jean, help me out. Take her and put her on the table while I take my shoes off. Take one arm, and then the other. There. Lin will come with you. She's a white-bearded gibbon.
A white-bearded gibbon. They have quite a set of teeth.
Ah, yes. And as you can see, they cut off her fangs. It's common. When they start to get aggressive, they were cut right through. She should have fangs 2 to 2.5 centimeters long. Captured gibbons that are sold as pets get aggressive as they grow older, so people cut off their fangs in an attempt to control them. It's done with a hacksaw without anesthetic, so you can imagine what that's like.
But the aggression arises naturally as the animal starts to mature. It's a natural instinct.
Yes, at sexual maturity. In the wild, gibbons are rejected by their parents. When they're raised by human parents who don't reject them at maturity, the child has to initiate the separation. The gibbons declare their independence by getting aggressive. The life expectancy of a gibbon in captivity is 7 years, max. In the wild, it's 30 years. I'm lucky. I've known what I wanted to do since I was a child. When I was 12, I met one particular monkey in the zoo near my house in the south of France. It was a gibbon. I had a lot of questions because the animals were kept in solitary cages. It seemed wrong to me, and I wondered why. I realized that to be able to help them, I had to understand them. I went to see the zoo director and ended up spending every Wednesday at the zoo. I began to hate seeing the animals in cages. I wanted to travel to see them in the wild, to see real gibbons. I wanted to help them, but I had no tools. I didn't know what I could do. I often say I had to learn to speak Gibbon. And that takes time. You need to take the time to observe. And today, I often observe things that I remember from my days as a kid in front of the gibbon cage at the zoo. So that has proven really useful, because gibbons are unique among animals in that they're monogamous and that they choose each other according to their personalities. So figuring out the gibbon's secret is above all getting to know the personality of each individual. Not giving these animals a second chance. I'm giving them a decent life, which they deserve. They didn't choose captivity. They didn't choose to be caught by poachers. It's our duty as human beings. I'm contributing by having these animals serve as wildlife ambassadors, to give us the means and the tools to protect those who are still in the trees. It's a global problem and very complex. The situation in Indonesia is dire. The worst deforestation on the planet is taking place in Indonesia. It's proceeding at an alarming rate, and it makes me so angry. I've been here for 15 years. I remember places that were densely forested. The first Calawate camp was 3 hours by boat from the nearest village. Today, the plantation is only half an hour away. Once the palm oil plantations are there, it's over. No forest will ever grow there because the soil has been stripped away. In those areas, the forest with all its inhabitants and all its biodiversity is lost forever.
Here on the foot, you can see the soil is very moist.
Yes. The first thing they do before cutting down the trees is dig canals to drain the forest. They get rid of all the water before starting to cut. So there's a great risk of fire in the dry seasons. The original forest would be flooded at least 4 times a year.
We're right beside the road here.
Yes. Usually the companies stay away from the roads, but in this case, they're working with locals, landowners and villagers, to set up plantations along the road. Then the property owners will sell the bunches of oil palm fruit to the companies.
Right, so it's not just the great forest that you can see from the road, but there's also cooperation with local farmers.
People are pressured to grow oil palms because they know that the nearby companies will buy the bunches from their plantations. So a company that owns 15,000 hectares will be able to harvest fruit from almost double that amount of land.
That's sad.
Very sad. There's nothing left. No gibbons, no life.
Under international pressure, the Indonesian government has created national parks and reserves, but it hasn't made much difference on the ground. The bureaucracy is such that some oil palm plantations operate with impunity inside national parks. The spread of these large corporations leaves very little land for the locals. So education has become a real force for changing hearts and minds.
To do that, to have a few victories, to save the forest, to save the animals, you can't accomplish anything alone. You need support. Lots of support. And in order to rally people to the cause, the message has to be positive. We need to be able to report victories. Ecology is our future. It's not a quote-unquote pain in the neck, which is how it comes across the media. People go home, turn on the TV, and get a lecture. I want to do just the opposite. That's what I do on Radio Callaway. Our message is that ecology is positive, it benefits us all, and it can be fun. Saving an animal is fun. You go to bed at night, damn, today I made a difference.
To communicate with the people around, Callaway has its own radio station.
Oke, ketemu lagi dengan Shani di 99,1 FM. Seperti biasa kita akan bahas masalah lingkungan. Jangan lupa buat kamu yang pelihara satwa liar seperti wawa, orangutan, beruang, ular mungkin, jangan sampai menyiksa mereka di kandang. Biarlah mereka kembali ke alam. Untuk itu hubungi Yayasan Callaway di 0813 492 17991 atau langsung datang di kantor Callaway di Jalan Pinus nomor 28. Sekarang kita simak lagu favorit kamu dan kita kembali setelah kurang lebih 45 menit. Jangan kemana-mana, tetap di 99,1.
On air for 10 years, Callaway is the #1 radio station and actively participates in Indonesian life. The voice of Callaway is now heard everywhere and broadcasts its conservation message.
Ataupun lewat email buat kamu yang mungkin mau bagikan informasi mengenai satwa-satwa.
There's a tremendous lack of information. You mustn't think all Indonesians are bad because they keep gibbons. They're simply uninformed. That's where Radio Callaway makes a difference. When we explain, you know your pet gibbon who died after 7 years, it didn't die of old age, but at sexual maturity. That knowledge alone will make some people think and bring us their animals.
99,1 FM Callaway Radio, the best music for life. Dan kita potong
The solution is with young people. They're the future, and they'll be making the decisions in a few years. They have the energy to promote Callaway and go out and save animals. So the primary objective at Radio Callaway is to be heard. Then we'll start to promote awareness among young people whose main interest is not in saving gibbons. And it's working because over 60% of the animals we get at Callaway Borneo are from listeners. Listeners are doing our work for us. It's the schoolgirl who says to her friend, "I'm worried you have a gibbon at home. You should listen to Radio Callaway and call them."
Callaway Radio, 99.1 FM.
That's how we get animals. We're a very small center, yet we get a lot of information out, and we save a lot of animals. Because of all these listeners who quote-unquote work for us, who send us texts, emails, or call the hotline for us to come and help an animal who's in bad shape, or who get us to intervene between wild animals and villagers. We recently took in a bear who was on a balcony. Some oil palm workers had captured a bear and were keeping it on a balcony. Some listeners let us know. Because the bear often fell off the balcony. Having all these listeners gives us real power. Because again, we're a small team with very limited means, but we have the support of 10 to 15,000 listeners 24/7 who text us information.
Whether it's a bear, a critically endangered crocodile, or a snake, whenever conflict arises between animals and humans, Callaway intervenes to try to find a solution that works for everyone.
This is what my life's about, doing positive things around me. I can't do otherwise. I can't explain why. At any rate, I know one thing. When I come home with Prada, with my children, I go to bed at night proud of what I'm doing. I can't explain why, but this is what I'm meant to do. I came to Indonesia to save gibbons, and I stayed because I fell in love with Indonesia. Because all my little victories, no matter how small, have been won with the support either of the locals or of my team, and obviously all the people around me are Indonesians. So this has truly become my country. I now have Indonesian citizenship, and I'm proud because it gives me a certain legitimacy to say, look, we have to protect the forest, we must. I'm fighting for my country, and that's an additional incentive to be even more effective.
One of your essential tools is your paraglider.
Yes, it's extremely effective because it takes so little effort. In a single half-hour flight, I can evaluate the situation in a reserve of over 1,000 hectares. It would take days on foot to ensure that there was nothing to worry about. I can also keep an eye on areas that are being cleared. This shows a path that was made in the interior. It's the first step before clear cutting. It's an access to the forest. And there they've started clearing and you can see what's going on. So that's clear cutting. And they've also set fibers to be able to cut faster. So that forest is on fire.
But there must be a risk of the fires spreading.
A great risk, but that's actually what they want. To set a fire and burn as much as possible, so it's easier to burn the forest into a plantation. These fires don't get out of control, they are deliberately set to spread as far as possible. That's why there are dozens of fires lit here and there, so as much as possible will burn. The longer the dry season, the happier the oil palm industry is, because they can, unfortunately, convert the forest more quickly.
Isn't it against the law?
Absolutely. But this goes on every year in Borneo and Sumatra. The haze will even go beyond the country's border. That's how huge the fires are.
In addition to public health issues caused by the ever-present haze in the cities, the forest fires send all the carbon stored in the trees throughout their lifetimes up into the atmosphere. Deforestation is responsible for 20% of annual worldwide greenhouse gas production.
When I created this reserve in Borneo, I did it with the authorities, with the locals. It was an ideal conservation organization. Then came elections. Attitudes and interests changed, and they're now cutting down the forest, so we can say goodbye to the animals we released into the wild. What will happen to those animals? I've devoted 11 years of my life to a reserve in Borneo. 11 years of work, money, and patrols. Today, as we speak, this forest is being clear-cut. And the orangutans and gibbons who call it home? Sorry. That was the end for me. Now I don't take risks. I buy the land. If I'm permitted to, under Indonesian law, now that I'm a citizen, I will buy up as much as possible. Even if in terms of conservation, I'm not sure it's the best option. But if we want to be as certain as possible that we can save the forest, we have to buy patches of forest, create private conservation zones.
Buying the forest to preserve it. With few means, Shani opened a second conservation center in the neighboring island of Sumatra. That's where he's buying up sections of forest and protecting it from attack from big corporations.
Avec 1,000 euros,
With 1,000 euros, we can save 1 hectare. A family of gibbons needs 15 hectares. 15,000 euros will save a gibbon family forever. That is very concrete. And if we own the forest, we can put protection measures in place without having to seek authorization from any elected official, who may change every 5 years, or lobby authorities for which there is never a guarantee. This is completely different. Someone cuts down a tree on my reserve, it's as if someone came into my house to rob me. I call the local police who do their job. Welcome to Kalawit, Sumatra.
At the high point of his reserve, we witness the morning spectacle of a family of wild gibbons. Free on land rich in a variety of species, in the heart of a section of forest protected by Kalawit.
It's wonderful because looking down, you can see wild animals, which is almost impossible when you walk through the forest.
Yes, it's one of the few places where you can observe wild gibbons at eye level. This is a family of 5. And it's great because the male has light-colored fur and the female is black, so you can see patches of color moving through the forest.
That young one seems pretty lively.
Yes, that's typical of gibbons. He's almost 2, still close to his mother, but he moves around on his own, jumping around to the annoyance of his parents.
There's a specific dynamic in terms of their songs. There are 2 almost identical songs in the same family.
Yes, gibbons use song to protect their territory, but not any song. It's a duet between the male and the female. The female will sing a crescendo that lasts 18 seconds. And if there's a young female, she will try to imitate her mother. Over time, her song will become identical to her mother's. And when her song is perfect, we know she's about to mature. It's the same for a young male. He'll spend time with his father and learn to be a male by imitating dad. So from a distance, even if you can't see them, you can tell how many are in the family, the sex of each individual, and the extent of their territory because they sing all around the borders.
What's amazing is to see that the work you do with the cages, with conservation, now allows you to buy sections of forest to protect it.
Yes. Thanks to the animals you hear in the background singing in their cages, I can protect the wild ones. This is why I came to Indonesia, to see wild gibbons and protect them. And we're doing just that here at Kalawait Reserve, the forest we bought. I can touch that goal with my fingertips. Saving gibbons means saving trees, which saves all the animals. So that's a priority, especially in Indonesia, where deforestation is moving so quickly. We have no time to lose, and the best way to proceed is to buy up the forest.
Shani installs motion-activated cameras to do an inventory of the animals who come to his private preserve.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A pig-tailed macaque.
They stay on the ground.
They do. They eat fallen fruit. The camera trap allows us to identify species in the interior, and for large animals like the tapir, to recognize individual animals, so we'll know how many there are.
So the cameras are revealing the wealth of the forest.
We know how rich the forest is, and the camera lets us show it to others. We've had bears caught on camera. We have videos, photos of the golden cat, an elusive panther. These are little victories that allow us to shout a little louder, "Hey, help us because the forest is rich. We have the evidence. Here, look." In Indonesia, the first big victory, and we have the necessary tools to win it, is to ensure that zones protected under Indonesian law, all the existing national parks, all the existing reserves, are well and truly protected on the ground. We have the tools we need, the laws on our side. National parks and reserves have already been created. But it's clear to see that in Indonesia, the way the law is enforced is not what people are used to in developed countries.
We try to meet the minister responsible for forests, to ask for explanation, to try to understand why conservation measures passed by this government weren't enforced on the ground.
We're from Canada. We're filming a TV show about the forests of Indonesia.
Yes.
Is it possible to, after your talk, to just ask you a few questions? But after your talk? Huh? Just 5 minutes after your talk?
That day, the minister announced another bill in response to international pressure. A plan to reforest areas destroyed by monoculture.
Ada 56 ya, 56 lembaga konservasi kita di seluruh tanah air.
The Indonesian president launches a campaign to replant 1 million trees. It's a joke. Cancel one oil palm company and you'll save way more than 1 million trees. And you won't have to spend a fortune getting trees, planting them, and so forth. It's just a big joke, a farce. This is also a very corrupt country. Indonesia is the 5th most corrupt country in the world, so you have to deal with that. I can't remake Indonesia. My goal is to save gibbons, save the forest, so I do anything I can to achieve that.
Calawate is a foundation that relies on public donations to survive. Will Shani's howl of distress be heard in our homes? We, major consumers of palm oil, can make a difference. This oil, used in food processing, cosmetics, and biofuels, can and should be subject to far more effective conservation measures. Respect of habitats and biodiversity should be required of palm oil-producing countries before they are granted the right to exploit their forests.
The fight against palm oil is crucial, not just for the forest of Indonesia, which unfortunately is already severely affected by palm oil. Anything we can save in Indonesia is only a first step. But if we don't organize a defense, an offense against palm oil, then the industry will start the same process of destruction in Central Africa, in Gibbon, especially, which is renowned for its lush forest. The oil palm corporations are already there, and in Latin America. That's why it's vital to have victories here, so that the pattern doesn't repeat so severely in other countries where palm oil exploitation is in its infancy. Just look at what's happened in Malaysia, which was one of the first countries targeted by palm oil and where little forest is left. The main thing is not to be pessimistic and not keep looking back saying, oh, look at what we've lost, what we're going to lose, it's a disaster. Yes, it is. So you have to roll up your sleeves, and that's what I'm doing. Oh, he's scared. That's Tante.
As a child, Aurélien Brulé had a crazy dream of going to live with gibbons, free, in the heart of the old-growth forests of Indonesia. His journey led him to confront a sobering reality, where nature is under attack from all sides in the name of short-term profit, no matter what the long-term consequences may be. Far too often, avarice kills life.
I can't imagine anyone thinking Calawate is a solution. It's often presented as such. Yes, we're doing amazing work, but we won't save the gibbon. Not the gibbon. We're saving some gibbons. And there's a huge difference. We're not saving the forest. We're saving bits of forest. Fragments, pockets. But if we don't do it, we'll lose everything, so we have to do it. Maybe there'll be a study in 30 years in Borneo and we'll have saved 2% of the forest. Yeah, but it's not all gone. We have to focus on that, because if we don't act now, if nothing is done, we'll lose everything.
This man of nature has led the fight of his life, a life dedicated to saving gibbons and the many species that live within the last great forests on the planet. His new dream now allows him to save much more than gibbons. It's allowing other species to survive as well. And in an interconnected world where the fate of one species depends on the fate of others, Shani, in his own way, is also fighting for our survival. We abandon the comfort of our sailing vessel, the Sedna IV, and penetrate far inland on the island of Sumatra, Indonesia. Sumatra is home to an extremely rich and diverse wildlife, with over 200 species of mammals and almost 600 species of birds. Its tropical forests and peatlands are a true global heritage. But the fast economic development based on the exploitation of natural resources today is a disaster for the biodiversity of the island. Located in Southeast Asia, Sumatra is the 6th largest island in the world. The majority of its lush primary forests have been raised in recent decades, giving way to monoculture trees used for paper and palm oil. Today, in what remains of these lush forests, we still find populations of elephants, tigers, rhinos, and great apes. But all these iconic species are now on the sad list of endangered species. The remaining orangutans struggle to survive the impact of deforestation. The loss of these habitats threatens the wildlife populations, and if nothing is done quickly to stop this massacre, 98% of forests could disappear within 20 years. For economic reasons, the majority of Indonesian land was given in grants to companies that decimate these precious forests to make way for the highly profitable palm cultivation. Palm oil, used in food, cosmetics, and biofuels, the vegetable oil most widely used in the world. The forests in the province of Aceh in the west of the island are one of the last refuges for populations of orangutans in Sumatra. Despite protective measures dating from the old regime, the new local government has granted new concessions to large corporations, razing and burning forests to convert them into monocultures. These practices are often illegal, but the government turns a blind eye. In this country, laws are often flouted, jeopardizing the survival of the last elephants, tigers, rhinos, and orangutans in Sumatra. Biologist Bryson Voirin, a specialist in arboreal mammals, joins our expedition.
Well, I spent a good part of my life in tropical rainforest canopies around the world, in both New World and Old World forests. Now, this forest is especially interesting to me because of the orangutan.
Our investigation begins at the SOCP Quarantine Center, the Orangutan Conservation Program in Sumatra. In addition to its many research programs, the SOCP collects the victims of deforestation and animals captured by poachers who resell them as pets. Its director, Dr. Ian Singleton, leads a team of nearly 70 employees. By combining science and education, SOCP hopes to improve the plight of the last orangutans in Sumatra.
The best estimates that we have today of the orangutan population in Sumatra is around the 6,000, 7,000 mark. Maybe slightly more, maybe slightly less. But the important thing is it's going down. Now, in the last sort of 10 years, it's been going down slowly. And what we're looking at now is a potential situation where it's going to start going down rapidly. You know, we're sitting right now at the cusp of potentially a devastating decline in the extent of forest in Aceh, and also the orangutans and tigers and elephants and rhinos as well.
The SOCP is on a mission to save the last populations of wild Sumatran orangutans, a species critically endangered. Here at the quarantine center, the majority of residents were confiscated from their owners, who kept them in captivity, often in inhumane conditions. Upon arrival, the orangutans are examined and treated. The ultimate goal of the SOCP is to release all its residents, but some orangutans will never have that chance.
Hey, there you go. Losa was shot 62 times with an air rifle. We've managed to take 14 pellets out of him, but he's still got 48 inside. And he's got the problem, his biggest problem, he's got 2 in this eye and 1 in this eye, so he's completely blind. You can see his eyes, look, there's just nothing there at all. And we'll never be able to fix that. So he's going to spend the rest of his life as a captive orangutan, which could be more than, could be 40, 50 years.
Why would somebody shoot an orangutan 62 times with an air rifle?
What you have in these farmland areas, you've got people wandering around there with BB guns, and they'll shoot anything that moves. They shoot squirrels and monkeys, anything that they think is going to eat their crops. And I think that's exactly what's happened with him. They've probably run out of pellets after 62 shots. You want to sleep, don't you? You just want to sleep. Huh? So, yeah, these cages behind us are what we call the long-term cages. So that's especially for animals that we know can't be released, at least for the foreseeable future. But most of them, the vast majority, after they've done their quarantine down near the clinic, and we've treated them for whatever ailments they might have, then they move up to these big socialization cages up here. And this is the first time they kind of really start to learn how to be a little orangutan once again. You know? So this is, these are the socialization cages. So this is the first time they've met and been introduced to other orangutans, probably since their mother was killed and they were first captured. So this is where, once they're in here, they have to learn all these orangutan behavioral skills, how to defend their food resources and then you find out who the bullies are and who the subordinate ones are and everything else. The aim is to get these groups together where they all know each other and they all know how to interact with each other, and then we always try and get them into groups so that when they do eventually move to the Reintroduction Centre, they're not travelling on their own. They're travelling with orangutans that they already know, and they're arriving there with orangutans they know. And oftentimes, some of the orangutans that are out in the forest there, they also know because they were in here a few months ago or something like that.
So they all will be released eventually?
Yeah, everybody in here is a release candidate. We're just waiting. This Saturday, we plan to move 6 orangutans from here to Janto to start the release process there, and everybody else is just waiting for their turn. But it's quite a rewarding stage to get to, because these guys have many of them spent years on their own. Some of them have even spent like 10 years chained to a single tree around the neck with a meter of chain. And to finally get them into a place like this where they can really exercise, get to move around, learn all these new skills, it's a really rewarding part of the process.
Counting the wild orangutans is a complex task, and the SOCP biologists must travel long distances into the forest to find the nests made daily by orangutans. Often located at the top of trees, it is a daunting task for the patrol. But today, a new technique is being used to better catalog the Indonesian forests. The drones are equipped with high-definition cameras to photograph or film the canopy, where the orangutans spend most of their lives. This new technique allows the SOCP team to work with great efficiency, unparalleled by ground crews. Drones can also be credited with gathering compelling evidence in the case of illegal practices.
We started using drones as a tool here to try to count orangutan nests, to learn more about their distribution and abundance. In the past, we used to count orangutans by doing ground surveys. So we go into the forest and go in for a week, 2 weeks to go to remote areas and look how many orangutans there are and if there are orangutans. Now we can fly in with a drone for 10 kilometers, look around, are there nests, and come back in an hour.
So once you release this, it's going to basically be flying itself. It's on autopilot.
It's on autopilot, so we'll do the takeoff manually. And then we'll do a few rounds to see if everything is okay, and then we'll switch to auto, and then it will fly its mission and return, and then we'll manually land the plane again. Once we started that, we saw the footage and thought that this can be a much more applicable tool than only focusing on orangutans. It gives fantastic information on deforestation, on threats to the forest, on where forest is, what the agricultural threats are, and it gives us, in a way, very high-resolution data that we can use to pinpoint where changes are occurring.
In their efforts to protect the last wild populations, environmental groups have quickly understood the importance of documenting the logging operations. Drones have now become an effective weapon in the fight to save these last protected areas.
The problem is not the oil palm tree. I mean, it's a wonderful, productive plant. The problem is the way the expansion of the industry is happening right now.
The drupe palm has a much higher yield than soybean or rapeseed. Palm oil is now the most used vegetable oil in the world, and the expansion plans of these monocultures today threatens almost all the forests of Sumatra.
The old school plantation industry thought long term. They established a plantation for 100 years. But the industry currently is being driven by people wanting basically double-digit returns in one planting cycle. And I really don't think they care what happens after that.
The trees are all cleared, everything is scorched, and 99.999% of everything that lived there dies. You can go into these areas and look for a grasshopper or a lizard, and you can't find one. They're not there. Nothing survives this conversion process. When they're chopping down these forests in the first instance, they don't sort of get every tree on day one, so that you end up with a few trees here and a few trees there. And sometimes you find there's an orangutan mother up there. So they will chop the tree down and then they will jump on this animal and beat it and club it with machetes and wood and sharpened bamboo sticks and everything, and it'll be killed that way.
Once again, the SOCP team must intervene. An ailing orangutan has been found in a plantation.
The wounds sometimes that we see are just horrific. We had one many years ago. She aborted a full-term fetus during the attack, and when we got to her, she was chained to a tree by the neck, and her entire body was swollen up like she'd just done 50 rounds with Mike Tyson. It was horrible. The level of violence you need to do that, just concerted violence, it just amazes me. I find it hard to get it in my head that people can be that vicious.
Animals rescued by the SOCP are fortunate, but they only represent a tiny fraction of the orangutan victims of deforestation and poachers. But for others, the majority, it will be death, out of sight, through carelessness and indifference.
Wow. Wow. So this is the one we got yesterday morning, yeah?
Yeah. We just got the information from the forestry department, and then he said with us he found some big orangutan in the plantation, and the people say the orangutan is just staying in one place and then don't want to moving, and then when try to looking with binocular, he found a lot of wound there. So this is why the forestry department make a decision to take this orangutan going to here.
He's got a big scar
this
here.
This is a lot of wound on his body. On the head, this is very big wound there, and this is very deep. And then we found a big hole on the here, and then on the right hand, is it? He cannot using, and when we try to palpate, the scapula is calm down.
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't know exactly is this a fracture or just dislocation. So we will make sure with the X-ray.
But it's surprisingly calm, yeah?
Yeah.
To see this poor creature come in and just look you in the eyes, and they have the most human-like expressions on their face, and it's just wondering, what the heck is going on and what are people doing to me?
The first step is to anesthetize the animal. He will then be taken to the examination room, where X-rays will assess the severity of his injuries. Ria is an older male. He has not had much luck. His body is covered with bruises and injuries, likely inflicted by plantation workers. Again, the level of violence used reflects the inhumane treatment of these orangutans, who dare to stray into farmland or plantations. The main concern of the veterinarians are Ria's internal injuries. A comprehensive examination will determine if surgery is necessary. Initial tests confirm that Ria is in bad shape and that a weapon was used. The X-rays clearly show the presence of projectiles inside the body of the animal.
So, yeah, this is the head and the skull. You can see there's the 1, 2, 3 pellets up there. 3 bullets here. 1, 2, 3. So I think there's around 18. Yeah, but it's kind of weird because they usually focus on the head. You know, they usually shoot him in the face. But these are obviously not too far away from his eyes. If they'd hit him in the eyes, they'd have been blinded.
The full examination confirms the severity of his condition and the presence of significant internal injuries. The veterinary team will have to perform several operations and then wait and see how the animal reacts.
We observed the surgical procedures that lasted several hours. It was very extensive, and I think they're going to have to do more surgery on that animal just to keep it surviving for the time being.
So after 6 hours under surgery, what's the verdict?
It looks from the X-rays there's no sign of any sort of bone damage, and so his problem is all these cuts and holes, and especially his right hand is completely shot to pieces. The tendons inside the hand is all rotten. You can actually put a finger almost all the way in, just about every direction, and the tendons seem to be all already rotten, so you can pull the ends and make the fingers move. So there's a good chance we may have to amputate that, but we'll review that over the next few days.
So if you have to cut his right arm, is there less chance to be released, or?
It depends on him, but he's lived in the forest wild, and as long as he's sensible, missing a hand probably wouldn't be a major problem. We've already released one big male orangutan with an amputated arm here, and it doesn't bother him at all. We'll see. Yeah. It depends very much on him now, I think.
The plight of the orangutan is an eloquent demonstration of the government's inability to protect Sumatran forests and its inhabitants. However, some laws prohibit cutting down forests in conservation areas. But local governments routinely turn a blind eye to illegal acts.
In the late 90s, there was this thing called the LOSA ecosystem established by presidential decree and ratified by ministerial decree. And most of the wild orangutans are in the LOSA ecosystem, so the future of that species really much depends on that area. And then even more recently, I think in 2008, the LOSA ecosystem was designated a national strategic area for its environmental function, in which you're not allowed to destroy the environmental function of the area. Now, this is being completely disregarded by a new spatial plan established and drafted by the latest government of Aceh, long after the civil war ended, that essentially opens up the whole of Aceh's forests, including the LOSA ecosystem, for new roads, new mines, new logging concessions, new palm oil plantations. And we are terrified about this because the effects on the orangutans is going to be massive.
The LOSA ecosystem is one of the last havens for orangutans. The SOCP and other NGOs have documented illegal deforestation activities in the area of Tripa, a nature reserve consisting mainly of peatlands. They were able to prove that a company producing palm oil had, on a regular basis, lit hundreds of fires that have killed countless orangutans. A court case was undertaken to condemn this illegal activity.
There is no doubt in my mind within the palm oil industry There are better players and worse players, and you have a whole spectrum. I'm sure there are companies that you could really say are environmentally responsible. They really are trying to do the better thing. And at the far end of the spectrum, the other end of the spectrum, of course, you've got people who really don't give a damn. What we're trying to do is shift the center of that spectrum up towards the better end, what we think is the better and more sustainable end of the spectrum. I don't think even expansion of the oil palm industry needs cause deforestation. There are huge amounts of degraded land in Indonesia that could be converted into oil palm plantations without any further deforestation.
The Ministry of Forestry has two jobs on its plate. One is to maximize state revenue from the forests, and the other one is to protect forests and biodiversity. So I think you tend to find that one tends to win out over the other one. And corruption is the other thing. I mean, even when you've got a clear violation of the law, evidence, witnesses, an infallible case, it's still a huge challenge to get something like that into the courts and then to achieve a successful prosecution, because corruption is just throughout the system.
I would say the vast majority of damage being done is not caused, as a lot of people tend to advocate, poverty. I believe it's caused by greed. It's people that already have something wanting more.
What's most surprising when walking in the plantations is the silence of the forest. A deathly silence, reflecting a world without life, artificial, and no future.
What's changed then in 100 years of having all these plantations around? Nothing. The money is in Jakarta. It's built shopping malls and new airport for Medan, and it's spent in Singapore. And all the plantations in Aceh, the owners of these, are actually living and spending all their money in Medan. It's not staying in the area.
The day has finally arrived for some residents of the quarantine center. Today they undertake the long journey to the reintroduction site at Janto, located in the province of Aceh. These orangutans have socialized sufficiently to allow them to interact with other orangutans. They are now ready to be set free in a protected area where the SOCP brings together survivors of deforestation collected from all over the island of Sumatra.
We're lucky when we're setting up new populations, because these orangutans come from all over Sumatra, not just one particular place. So actually, genetically, they would be sustainable and viable because they're from such a varied background. We don't really need 500 animals here to maintain genetic diversity.
Satu lari ke bawah ya. Pelan-pelan aja, nggak usah buru-buru.
Udah bangun.
The road to freedom is a long one for its orangutans. The journey will last 12 hours, in a truck on the road, in 4x4 vehicles on forest roads, or in specially adapted vehicles to navigate the wetlands. Orangutans are always accompanied by veterinarians, thus providing them some comfort during the trip. We also made the journey with them, often in dangerous conditions. The difficulties in accessing the reintroduction site provide some protection for this fragile territory, mainly made up of peatland.
Peatlands are deep peat, where all the leaves and trees and branches that have fallen into the water have never rotted, because there's no oxygen down there. So you end up with this massive accumulation of carbon under the ground, sometimes 6, 10, 20 meters deep, something like that. Now, if you actually look at Indonesia, I think Indonesia has something like 56% of all the world's tropical peatlands. So the amount of carbon considered to be in these peatlands by the experts was something like 4 to 16 times what's in the atmosphere today. So this is a major issue. If you want to reduce emissions of carbon into the atmosphere, if you can stop destruction of Indonesia's rainforest, and especially its peatlands, you take a huge leap in the direction of your goal. If we fail to protect these, it has major, major consequences for all of us, not just the people here, but everybody on the planet.
After hours of travel, the orangutans finally arrived at the Reintroduction Center at Janto. They will be examined again and enter the final phase of readaptation before being released in the forest.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. This is the bit where we actually get to take a breather, eh?
Yeah.
It's always stressful when you've got the orangutans on the road because anything can happen, like bridges breaking down or getting stuck with a broken axle or something. But once you get them here, they're healthy, they're in the cages, you can relax a bit. Orangutans tend to just sort of grasp it. You know, okay, I'm in a box, let's see where I go.
Yeah.
I hope over the next couple of days we'll see a few orangutans around here in the trees, and that's when you get a real kick. So luckily he's feeding them now, but this is kind of fruit and veg that we normally get from the markets, just top up their diet. But once they get here in the Janto release site, we can start actually collecting fruits and other things from the forest, the stuff that they're going to encounter once they're out. So, you know, by doing that, they actually get to taste and experience all these things, and then they see what their reaction is before they stuff their faces. Yeah. But I did once follow some orangutans we released in another area, and they found these sort of palms that were half fermented, and they stuffed their faces on that, and probably getting more and more drunk, and then they spent the whole night throwing up out the side of a nest, you know. So they've got to learn these things, but at least by just giving them small amounts in the cages, they get to sample these things without eating enough to do themselves any harm. Yeah? And actually, while we've just been talking, orangutan's just climbed up on the cage here. Has just come up now. She's been out 2 years.
Wow, 2 years?
Yeah, she comes back every few months, and she was here a couple of days ago, but she looks really good. I'm really impressed. Yeah. The aim of the project here is not to just have a few orangutans wandering free and happy again after a traumatic life. It's to set up a wild, functioning, viable population of an endangered species. And any tourism or disturbance or human contact undermines that. We want these animals to be behaving and acting just like wild orangutans, which means up in the trees, feeding, interacting with each other, and no interference from humans down on the ground.
Several of the orangutans released into the wild are equipped with a small subcutaneous transmitter that allows them to be traced and their progress monitored.
Well, it's not really far, eh?
No, the signal's about 90, so it means it's somewhere within 100, 200 meters max. So, but it's difficult to find out exactly where they are because the terrain's quite undulating and the signal bounces around a lot. But we know it's somewhere in this kind of forest patch here.
Okay, let's try to find it.
Yeah, okay, let's see if we can get closer. There he is. Mungkin dekat-dekat sini. Sini nak. There he is. No, up there. Look.
Oh, yeah.
Through that gap. You see him pretty clear.
Yeah.
The sort of
Yeah.
Yeah, just and then you can hear the fruit drop.
Yeah.
Usually when you find orangutans in the forest, if you're not using this stuff, it's you find them with your ears, not with your eyes. You just hear this as the fruit drops and hits the leaves and stuff like that.
And there's a nest right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, yeah, I don't think she's used that one yesterday. It looks like about a week old. It's always nice to see them, though, yeah? Because you remember, when you see them like this, and you remember when the first time you met, say, Choti, and it was in somebody's back garden, and skinny and terrified, and maybe with a chain around its neck. And then you see them out here like this in the tree. It makes you realise, it makes you feel that what you're doing is really worthwhile. You're really achieving something fantastic. And I always get a kick out of it.
But not all orangutans are so lucky. At the quarantine center, Rhea is not well. His health is deteriorating, and the medical team must act quickly.
Fotonya lagi ya? Ini udah. Tangan yang sini, bahu.
So great day for Ruben, eh?
Yeah, in a minute, Lucas will it'll hang a few bits of fruit on the rope there, try and encourage him to go across, and then the last step is just to open the door.
Yeah.
And then it's up to the orangutan what he does next, yeah? This is what it's all about, yeah? I mean, ever since the orangutans first confiscated and in the medical quarantine and patched up and everything else, it's all about this day where the door is finally opened and they have that chance of a second life in the wild, which could be another 40, 50 years or so.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
The door finally opens for Ruben, an orangutan confiscated from its owners and cared for by Ian's team. It's a great day, a day where liberty could finally triumph.
Obviously a little bit unsure about what he's doing, taking a look around. A lot of them do that. They the surprise of having the door open is like, ooh, what's going on here? So they don't just immediately run into the trees, but they just consolidate themselves for a few minutes and see what's around, see what's where, and then they make a plan. Okay, look, he's off.
Oh yeah.
Not very interested in the fruit, more interested in the tree. So we're very much hands-off from the very start. When they come out of the cages, they're not looking for a human contact. They're looking at the trees and seeing other orangutans there, and they're going there, and they're staying there. There's no difference between these orangutans right now and those orangutans I followed for 2 years in the swamps. They're up there all the time, feeding very much on the stuff they should be feeding on. And at the end of the day, they made these beautiful nests and went to sleep. Yenny sent me a text. We lost the poor guy. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, didn't make it. But I'm kind of, Yeah, disappointed because I was a bit optimistic. I thought when we had a good look at him the other day, it looked like he's still pretty strong. He's been enthusiastic about his food, but I think the injuries that he's got inside are much more than what we saw outside.
It's really sad because I thought it was a great, rescue story, but he was eating with good appetite and everything, but...
This is another orangutan dead at the hands of humans, farmers, villagers, just crazy people. When they get an opportunity, they just go nuts. Orangutans get killed almost on a daily basis just for nicking a couple of durian fruits or something like that. It's just bizarre. It's completely out of kilter. Eh?
Crazy.
Sad. But we move on. Try and save the other ones.
The fate of the last Sumatran orangutan populations depends on the commitment, determination, and passion of people like Ian Singleton and his team. The protection of the last protected forests of Sumatra is of paramount importance to avoid further tragedies such as Ria. In this unrelenting fight, the SOCP did lose another patient. But the struggle has won an important victory, thanks to the support of other local NGOs and the public, who responded to the appeal by environmental groups.
Over the years, I think many NGOs have realized the value of these social networking systems. Firstly, websites for getting information out there, but also things like Facebook and Twitter and all the others for getting information out quickly to a large audience. And as a result, we are now able, if we want to launch a quick appeal or request letters or get people to sign a petition like the one we did recently on Avaz, to get large numbers of people on board very, very quickly. And the Avaz one in particular, we managed to get something, I think, as much as 1.3 million signatories within just a few weeks. Every time you sign one of these petitions, an email goes to the President of Indonesia, it goes to the Governor of Aceh, the head of the forestry, and it goes to all these others. So they hate getting 1.3 million emails. But it also gets picked up by the press. So because of this huge petition, the Guardian, the Independent, the Wall Street Journal, the Sydney Morning Herald, they're all willing to write articles because they know that this is a hot topic. So never underestimate the value of clicking like and share and getting onto these petitions and signing them when a cause really is something close to your heart.
In a historic judgment, the producer of the palm oil, PT Kalista Alam, was fined $30 million for fires in Tripa, a valuable peatland area in the Loser ecosystem. This victory is perhaps a consolation prize, however, since a new development plan in the forests in the province of Aceh has been adopted by politicians. Envisioned are more companies, more plantations, and inevitably, more innocent victims. We set sail for the island of Sumatra. This island, like the rest of Indonesia, is at the mercy of large corporations who raise and burn the rich Indonesian forests, turning them into vast monocultures. These practices, often dubious, threaten the survival of the last Sumatran elephant populations, a species critically endangered. Over the past 75 years, 80% of the population of Sumatran elephants have disappeared. We arrive at Riau province, in the central part of eastern Sumatra. Prior to 1982, 80% of this territory consisted of primary tropical forests. A haven for many species, Indonesia's forests are home to nearly 15% of all living species on the planet. In the 1980s, the Indonesian government gave most of its forest concessions to large companies that have raised, burned, and converted it into monocultures. Today, the production of palm dominates, but the land is also used for lumber and pulp and paper production. Over the past 25 years, 70% of the elephant's territory has been destroyed.
During our trip in Indonesia, in both Borneo and the island of Sumatra, we've seen ancient forests cut down and really ravaged land, where all the water was removed from the soil to dry out and eventually give way to monocultures that are now the basis of the Indonesian economy.
Companies producing palm oil ransack the forests and the valuable peatlands of Sumatra in order to develop palm plantations, which now stretch out as far as the eye can see. Recently, other concessions were granted to large corporations. And if nothing is done to stop this massacre, there will soon be no more of this pristine habitat for the species of Sumatra. The Drupe's palm produces palm oil, the most used vegetable oil in the world. It is found everywhere, in food, cosmetics, and biofuels. More than half of the food products in our supermarkets contains this palm oil. The rapid deployment of these monocultures at the expense of the forest is growing. Each year, approximately 2 million hectares of forests are cut and burned. In terms of area, it is the equivalent of 6 football fields disappearing every minute. Sunarto is an Indonesian biologist who works for the World Wildlife Fund. A specialist in elephants and Sumatran tigers, Sunarto agreed to accompany us during this expedition into the heart of what remains of the Indonesian forests.
Wow. Yeah, look at this.
These trees look older than the other, right?
Yes. Many are just recently planted here. You can see here the age or the height of the plants are different from the place over here that we can tell.
All that was forest before, not a long time ago.
Yeah, until 1982, more than 80% of the land of Riau province was forest until 1982 also. And you can see here the smoke over there.
Yeah.
There's still some areas that are still under the process of the deforestation.
Oh, yeah.
And typically the conversion from forest into the oil palm involves the burning.
All the animals, they have no other choice but leave the area or even
leave or
die.
Yeah.
Scientists estimate that between 80 and 90% of all forest species will die during these clear cuts. The international scientific community has reacted strongly to the planned massacre of Indonesian forests. They have lobbied the Indonesian government to protect its forests and its biodiversity. Parks were then created to preserve what had not already been destroyed. But the safeguards were never met. Some companies are still continuing production within park boundaries, and small farmers, frustrated by an economy that offers little advantage for them, began to illegally exploit patches of protected land to plant palm trees. Indonesian authorities turn a blind eye. Drupe's palm produced by local farmers will be purchased by the large corporations complicit in the destruction of the last remaining patches of protected forest.
Wow. Yeah, look at this fresh fruit bunch of the oil palm. Yeah, and it has to be processed really quickly. So
Okay.
it cannot stay for too long, otherwise the quality will be really bad. That's why it is important to have the mills close enough to the plantation area. Yeah.
And there's two types of ore, right?
Yeah, two kinds. First is made from the outer part of the skin, and the other is from the inside, the inner, which is the kernel. Yeah, and the kernel palm oil. They are made for higher quality products like probably cosmetics or like the chocolate mix for chocolate, high quality food. Yeah.
So not long time ago, that was a virgin forest.
Yes, as we can tell here, there are some leftover trees here, the died trees. Yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
This tree.
And it's amazing, it's so quiet. There's no life here.
Yeah, at this time of day, if we are in the forest, like maybe 20 years ago, it would have been much different, right? I mean, a lot of noise we can expect from the rainforest, but here at this time of day when animals supposed to be hungry and looking for food, we barely hear any. Except like few birds that are singing. Very common bird.
So there's no room anymore for tiger or
Well, for tiger it'll be too open. Yeah. The tiger needs somewhere to hide, right? Yeah.
Life has disappeared at the heart of the palm groves. Only a few years ago, the plant and animal species formed a complete ecosystem, unrivaled in its wealth anywhere else on the planet. The national parks should ensure the conservation of these species, but the lack of competent authorities on the ground has given free rein to poachers, who have destroyed all conservation efforts. Created in 2004, the Tesonilo National Park was to protect 1,000 square kilometers of forest. Today, about 80% of the park is now exploited illegally by poachers. It is near the Tesonilo Park that the World Wildlife Fund has developed a special patrol. The Elephant Brigade is known here as the Flying Squad and regularly intervenes to keep wild elephants away from plantations situated on the outskirts of the national park.
There used to be around 4,000 Sumatran elephants back in the mid-80s. Rough calculation now, the population is just around 1,000 left. And there are possibly around 500 in captivities now.
Wow, that's
This
big.
is Rahman.
Hi, Rahman.
Hello.
Hi. How old is he?
He's around 32 years old.
And that's a female?
And the female here, Lisa. And the baby, Imbo. Hey, Lisa.
Hi. Hi, baby. Look at this. Come here.
The baby Imbo.
Come, Imbo.
Almost
Come
3
here.
years old.
Come here. All right.
Yeah.
Great.
You okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Good. Okay, we can go. Jalan.
When did you start the Flying Squad?
Well, we started at the early 2004.
And what was the goal of the Flying Squad?
The initial goal was pretty simple. We faced a lot of problems of human-elephant conflict where a lot of wild elephants come outside of their habitats because of the increasing area becoming plantations.
Yeah, because they don't have anywhere to go anymore.
Yes, and having this squad where we train the elephants to chase the wild elephant back to their natural habitat will help reduce the conflict and reduce the victim from both sides, humans and the elephant at the same time. And mind your head here, the gate is not that high compared to the elephant.
Well, your elephant is much bigger than mine, actually.
Yes, and I have to do this to make me safe. It's tough being elephant here in central Sumatra, especially in Balai Raja, where their habitat is almost totally converted into oil palms. Despite the situation, they still are surviving.
The Elephant Brigade must complete a rigorous training to respond to the commands of their mouths. A special relationship based on respect and mutual trust is essential to enable the patrol to act effectively in all situations.
We patrol areas where the plantations are close to Tesonelo Park. We try to prevent elephants from entering plantations and destroy everything. That is why we use guns. The noise frightens them and makes them flee.
Without the intervention of the patrol, conflict escalates rapidly, often resulting in the deliberate poisoning of elephants that threaten plantations. Poisoned fruit is used as bait and gives the elephants no chance. They die for simply wandering onto cropland. The victims are many, and the education of the locals would perhaps be the only salvation for the last wild Sumatran elephants.
Not all villagers prey on elephants. We should be able to treat them the same way we treat humans.
Elephants are highly migratory and require large territories. They form herds that can reach up to 15 individuals. Even within the park, elephants are increasingly confined because of illegal logging. They sometimes venture into cultivated areas, creating problems with squatters who want to protect their plantations.
When the park was established, the park was already in a very bad condition at that time. So basically almost like land of nobody, and that's why these encroachers started to come. So the encroachers that were already there at that time become even more rampant because they possibly invite more people, and now almost 80% of the area is now gone and turned into oil palm mainly.
This is quite amazing.
Yes.
In the heart of the park, another patch of forest is ravaged, burnt, the first step before planting palm trees.
Who did this?
This area, what I heard is done by the local people here, not far from this area, that they still believe that this area is still part of their customary land.
But is there any police or park gardens around?
Yes, there are, but it's not enough and not efficient enough, I think, in dealing with very complex ways of forest destruction in this area. It's so complex. People who are in the field are basically, generally, are just poor people that happen to need some money or just to sustain their life. The process not only caused the deforestation and the degradation or even extinction of some species, but also the smoke, for example, when during the dry seasons, there usually the area is full of smoke, and we also suffer from smoke even for the people in the cities, even the neighboring countries also suffer from smoke because of this kind of process.
Although the process is illegal, they burn the forest to simplify the logging operation. The CO2 accumulated throughout the life of a tree is released into the atmosphere, contributing significantly to global warming. To help protect the last wild elephants, Sunarto's team used collars to track their movements.
Hey, we've got the coordinate for the elephant.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
here. This is where the elephant is, and our camp is here.
So it's not too far.
It's about 1 hour drive.
So should we go?
Yep, I think so. The sooner the better.
Great.
In addition to the flying squad, we also have a patrolling team that regularly patrol wider areas to detect the whereabouts of the wild elephant. So ideally, we know first the movement of the wild elephant before they go into plantation areas, because once they are in the plantation areas, it will be more difficult to drive them out of that. So the best would be to detect them first and prevent them from even entering. Because this is the time when they just basically wake up from the sleep during the hot day, and they usually want water to have and enjoy it for a while. So yeah, that's the situation.
Okay.
A receiver picks up a signal from the radio collar on an elephant. It guides the team through a grove of acacia trees, widely used by the pulp and paper industry. No doubt, the feces are fresh. We are on the right track.
Kedengeran detak-detak. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
An elephant has come to eat the fiber just under the bark of this tree. This kind of damage provokes the ire of the plantation owners.
Something else.
That's big.
Yes.
It's not a small elephant.
Although this is not the biggest. We used to have bigger one, but yeah.
That's pretty big. Look at this.
Yeah, step on it. Feel it.
Excitement grips the group as we approach. Wild elephants are constantly hunted by poachers and have become aggressive towards anyone who confronts them in their territory. There it is. So close. Avoid any confrontation.
It's a funny feeling when you are in front of them because there is a lot of emotion. We are facing a huge beast, and at one point, there was an exchange of eye contact. We didn't know whether to stay or run away, but the feeling is quite difficult to describe. A mix of fear and mutual respect, all in one look. It's really fascinating, an unforgettable moment stuck in my memory for the rest of my days.
Their way.
In the end, there were 13 of them. It was pretty amazing, a truly incredible moment, a unique instant, because these elephants, they are wild and of course, they don't want contact with humans. And thanks to our guides, we were able to follow them. It was really an amazing moment.
This special meeting with the last wild Sumatran elephants helps us understand the importance of the program for the protection and prevention of conflict established by the World Wildlife Fund. The success of the Elephant Brigade is based on close ties between the animals and their mounts. The daily bath helps build these essential links between elephants and their mahouts. This special moment, almost intimate, allows us to witness the intelligence of these exceptional animals. To protect the last wild elephants, the flying squad regularly patrols the boundaries of Tesonilo Park to prevent potential conflict between farmers and animals on the move.
So Sunarto, what are we looking for exactly during a patrol like this?
Well, we do the patrolling twice a week, and we checking around in the area whether there is any recent elephant visit. What I mean is wild elephant visits to near this area.
Yeah.
And talking with farmers if they have any problem with crop raiding by elephant.
Is there lots of conflicts between wild elephant and humans around here?
Oh yes, yes. Definitely, because of this very close boundaries between the forest, the elephant habitats, and the plantation areas.
Yeah. So your role really is to push back the wild elephant in the national park.
Yes, as much as possible, we would like to. Well, the flying squad team would like to prevent it from. Prevent the wild elephant from even coming into the plantation areas.
Yeah.
Because once they're in, it will be more difficult to drive them back. So if we can, we will do as much as possible.
There are some locals in front.
Yes, let's talk to them.
Yeah. All right. I'm John.
Makasih, Bro.
Pak Budia. Nice to meet you.
Pak, pagi Pak. Selamat pagi. Selamat Pak. Ya, selamat pagi Pak.
So Sunarto, did they have any problem with elephant here before? Did they see elephant around?
Pak, di sini gajah liar pernah datang nggak Pak ke kebun Bapak di sini?
Sering juga, istilah zaman satu.
Yes. There is one that wanders around here regularly, a large male.
Kerusakan yang ditimbulkan seperti apa, Pak?
Yes, he's caused damage in rubber plantations and also destroyed clusters of palm trees. Despite this, we have the utmost respect for these elephants. They are a bit like our grandparents.
And can we see any damage around here that wild elephant did?
Ada bekas-bekas kerusakan yang disebabkan gajah nggak Pak di sekitar sini?
Walk on this side. You will see.
Sana Pak. Let's go.
Every day, an adult elephant will consume between 150 and 200 kilograms of plants of all kinds. If it cannot find its daily ration within the park, it wanders off in search, often penetrating into the plantations.
Wow. An elephant did that?
Yes.
Wow.
They're very, very powerful. Especially if they want something they want to get.
Like what? Like food?
In many cases, like the elephant look for either food or salt. They really like salt, the mineral. Yeah. Pak, setelah kejadian seperti ini,
Are you
Pak,
bitter
rasanya
towards the
Bapak
elephants who
gimana
destroyed your
terhadap
home?
itu? Dendam kah atau seperti apa Pak rasanya, Pak?
Of course not. They didn't know it was a house. They were looking for food, that's all.
The educational work of the flying squad seems to be working here, near the WWF camp. But conservation efforts are not appreciated by all. The mahouts sometimes take great risks, and their lives are often threatened by poachers. Many illegals have organized themselves into stronghold villages and claim ownership of the protected forests.
These people are not happy with what we work. We try to stop the deforestation, which means that we are stopping somebody from doing business. And for sure, they're not happy with that. And what they did was kidnapping one of our team members.
The destruction of the habitat doesn't only affect the populations of wild elephants. Sumatran tigers, another species critically endangered, struggle to survive in what remains of the forests.
In 1900, there were still more than 100,000 individuals of tigers in the world. And now the latest estimate in 2010 or so was only about 3,000 individuals left.
Sunarto and his team have established a catalog identifying the last Sumatran tigers. They can accurately track the growth of the population that took refuge in what remains of the Teso Nilo Park.
Keberadaan harimau, dari tanda jejak dan sebagainya, terus teman-teman memasang kamera trap. GPS, okay?
This is WWF camera trapping teams. The tiger team that is trying to estimate the tiger population in this area, in Teso Nilo National Park.
Okay.
Siap? Sip. Lanjut. Oke, semua siap? Oke, ya. Lanjut.
How do you choose a good spot for a camera trap?
There are many things to consider for that. First of all, is it a good trail where you find a lot of animal signs there that the tiger will likely to pass?
Yeah, so you will choose a passing site or even a resting site?
Yes, and passing site will be the more likely place that we will find, yeah.
Masuk dalam grid nggak di titik ini nggak?
That's a good spot.
Jadi GPS ada nggak?
Can be. So we have a curve here, especially for video. It will give the opportunity for us to capture the tiger scenes from there, and the other camera that will have a still image will capture the full frame also from here. That way we can identify the individual more surely. The situation for Sumatran tiger, the latest estimate was around 400 individuals, and now I think with the forest being converted so widely, we figured that the number is much lower than that.
Udah nih, bisa nih.
A census of these remaining tigers by motion detection cameras takes weeks to complete. There is no respite for the team. Again tonight, the brigade must intervene. Elephants were seen on the edge of a large plantation. A team is quickly dispatched to the scene. Motorcycles are preferred to elephants for this risky nighttime operation. The traces left by the passage of the herd are obvious. Sunarto is called in as backup. The team will try to scare the elephants using guns. The noise scares the animals, but no one can predict which way they will go. In the early morning, the team goes in search of the elephants to see if their actions of the previous night help move the herd to a safe area, far from the plantations.
So the elephants are on the other side of the river?
Yes, they are. The herds are across the river. The farmer just told me that they just went across the river this morning.
Okay.
And by this time of day, we should expect that they cross this place to find a more shady place for them to rest.
So they are in a plantation right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But that's another plantation on the other side.
Yeah, that's the problem here. Yeah, everywhere is plantation, so it's hard for the elephant.
Yeah. We are just at the limit of Balaraja National Park, and we hear farmers who are attempting to hunt elephants off the plantations. Part of the herd just crossed the river. It now requires a lot of caution, because obviously these elephants have become aggressive towards humans, as they are constantly being pushed out of the plantations.
The challenge here is that to chase the elephant, you need to direct them to a place that is safe. But here, there is almost nowhere they can go.
The owner of the plantation company has deployed a group of workers to hunt elephants in the palm grove. This small army, equipped with fireworks, stalk and surround the elephants, who don't know where to go. A sad circus in nature, where the elephants have become the victims of a real hunting party.
You know, normally when you come in forest to see wildlife, you like it, you know, calm and quiet, and it's almost unreal.
Trying to go here, but there's somebody there again.
Yeah. Again,
there's so many noise here.
Yeah.
The elephants have left the first plantation, but must quickly turn back when faced with the attacks of the neighboring plantation workers.
We are living in like the war zone.
The fear in the eyes of these elephants, trapped between two plantations. The men regroup. The hunt is about to resume.
they keep on trying to survive despite this kind of situations. Almost every one of them got different kind of scars in their body because they've been tortured here and there.
Slowly, Ronald. Now we are safe.
Look, you know, they're right in the middle of the two plantations and they don't know where to go.
Yeah. Different people chasing from different directions, so they must be really confused.
The sad circus continues until nightfall, where each plantation owner is desperate to hunt elephants on their land. But the elephants simply have no more protected areas in which to survive. National parks such as Tesonilo are reduced to almost nothing, and the Indonesian government, complicit with the industry, continues to turn a blind eye to the illegal acts.
I have the privilege to work with these magnificent species, including elephant, tigers, and rhinos, and they are categorized as critically endangered under IUCN criteria. All of these species or subspecies are in that category now. The next step beyond that is extinct in the wild, and we really don't want them to be there.
Sunato and his team's efforts to save the last wild elephant populations are remarkable, but they are not enough. Contributing to the ever-increasing demand for palm oil for our consumption, we are all responsible for the industry's strength. But there is not only bad news for the flying squad. An elephant calf has joined the ranks of the famous brigade. Good news for a species on the brink of extinction. Surveillance cameras installed in the Tesonilo Park also show encouraging pictures. New tigers, unknown to Sunato's team, will be added to the identification catalog. A female and her young, the hope of an entire endangered species about to disappear forever. What good news for a country that so badly needs it.